Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Brett McCollum, and I am here today with Bethany LaFlam. And today we're going to be talking about scaling your real estate leveraging OPM. Before we do, guys, here at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs to 2 to 5x their businesses and allow them to build the business they've always wanted and live the lives they've always dreamed of. Without further ado, Bethany, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, thank you for being here. This is going to be a great show. I cannot wait to talk about it. Definitely we talked a little pre-show, definitely like getting to learn some of legal complexity and your expertise. So guys, buckle up, because this is going to be chock full of information that is applicable to your daily life now. So, but yeah, before we get into everything, talk all the things, Bethany, can you tell us a little more about, like, who are you, some background, how'd you get into, your profession, that sort of thing?
Well, I'm a lawyer because when I was a kid, I was convinced that I was smart. And the only way that smart girls got out of Ohio was to go to law school or medical school. And I realized pretty quickly in pre-med that medical school wasn't going to be for me. So
Yeah.
well, it was.
Where in
So
Ohio?
near Cleveland.
I mean, same. I'm what city?
Okay, so I graduated in from North Ridgeville High School.
Okay, I'm from Medina, so
Oh,
like,
I have
all
family
right.
in Medina. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, that's awesome. The Atkinsons lived in Medina. So yeah, but Ohio's a great place to be from, but I didn't really want to stay there, right? So I know you're in Florida now,
Yes.
where it's sunny and warm. I'm in California, where it's sunny and warm. So and I we didn't know about real estate investing. I was poor, right? It was just sort of like, get a high paying job and get out. Didn't know about entrepreneurship, all the things. So I knew I could study, I knew I could work hard, I knew I could get good grades. So when it came time to go to law school, I left for California and never looked back, and started practicing law and litigation, which is just toiling and toiling. I was billing 2,000 hours a year and commuting from Orange County to Los Angeles, which is like a 3-hour commute some days.
What kind of practice was that when it was in litigation?
So it was complex litigation, and I spent, all day helping the older lawyers prepare for trial and do all the research and the work. And then at night, I would help prep for the next day. When they would go sleep, I would. So it was, I was on these huge, massive cases where, and I was a baby lawyer still. So I didn't get to go to court. I just got to hand the briefcase to the real lawyers who got to go to court.
Yeah.
So it was not
your
fun.
keep, Bethany.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was like the Lord of the Paralegals,
Yeah.
And so I didn't love it, and I got tired of the commute. And so I actually left there to go to another firm, thinking that I was going to get some real estate litigation experience. And I very quickly learned that what they really wanted me to do was kick people out of their mobile home parks.
Ooh.
And I was like, no, thank you. I'm not going to.
This doesn't feel very good.
No.
Yeah.
So I left and I started my own firm. And a lot of people gave me that look.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like,
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
that's
Right?
everybody looks at us that way. We're entrepreneurs. Everybody looks at us
Yeah.
weird like that. Yeah.
So I was in a new market with no mentors because I was in Orange County, so I had no mentors, 2 years of experience, no clients, just learning on my own. So I did everything the hard way. I would never recommend doing that because brave can be mistaken for stupid sometimes. So
Yeah.
I started to teach myself transactions law because I really loved building things. I loved when I figured it out. I loved working with entrepreneurs, and I realized I was a bit of an entrepreneur. So that, that went from there to doing mergers and acquisitions. I was working with a lot of startup companies, tech companies, aerospace, and doing securities work, which is basically just helping people raise capital legally, right? So
Right.
these big complex deals, whatever. But I was getting burned out though. I was on my own. I had a couple of partners here and there, but it was, again, still doing everything the
Yeah.
hard way. So I decided to leave the practice of law for a little while and go start my own fund because I was like, well, you know,
I know how to do it.
coaches don't play. I want to play, right? And
hmm
so I was like, I've been practicing for a few years. I've seen a
When
lot.
was this, give or take?
This was back in 2015.
Okay.
I don't know if you recall, but in 2015, the world started to get a little bit wonky and
Oh, yeah.
politics started to get a little wonky. And investors, foreign investors is what I was dealing with, were like, we're going to wait and see what happens with this election before we put our money.
Sure.
So, but I had this brilliant, very complicated fund.
Mm,
And it was so complicated that I couldn't really make anybody understand, right? So we
right.
had the real estate development with tech and all these things, and my heart was in the right place, and my head had figured out all the legal structures, but I was just not able to get investors comfortable with the idea that we were going to do both real estate development and tech and all the things. Because as you probably know, usually real estate investors live in different bodies than tech investors, right? And
True
so
story.
they're not always, I know a few that do both, but they're not always in the same body. So I failed miserably. Luckily I did not raise $50 million before I failed. I failed fairly early. But I did try to keep it going for a long time. So I learned all the lessons in that couple of years, right? I lost all my money. I used up all my savings. I shot my credit. My confidence was garbage at that point. And it was sort of like, because I'd failed and I'd lost some partners' money, I felt like I wasn't allowed to succeed from there.
hmm
So, then I met my former law partner, Mauricio Rold, and he had been coming out of a very serious illness, and he needed someone to help him run his real estate syndication practice. And I was like, all right, I'll help you for a little while I lick my wounds and figure out what's next. But I don't live here. This isn't what I'm doing. And 8 years later, he's retired. I'm running the firm. So I
Yeah.
learned that it wasn't law that I hated. It was the grind and the tech bros and that life where I was treated like the help that I hated. I really love real estate investors. I love helping people build something to escape their W-2. I love helping people strategize about how to create a legacy for their kids, and so that's the part that I really love. So I fell in love with it, and now here we are
Wow.
years later.
That's incredible. Let me go back a little bit because just to highlight for just a brief moment, you mentioned like, and I think this is a story that if you've been in business long enough, I think a lot of people have had some version of this in some way, be it real estate, be it in the law practice, be it in whatever sense of business. If you owned a business or you've been you went through a season of hurt, right? You lost this, and then the confidence side of it. And you made the comment that you said, I didn't feel I was worthy enough to succeed.
Yeah, that's right.
I resonate on that very strongly, because we are our own worst critic, right? Like that's, it's kind of cliche almost to say. And I think when I heard you say that, I was like, yeah, when it's on the struggle, when it's because of something
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
You didn't have enough, by the way, my wife said this to me the other day, you don't have enough control to cause things to happen the way they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, who do you think you are? Right.
Right. But
Yeah.
we as entrepreneurs go, yeah, but I did, and then you project this thing of, or at least I have projected this thing of, yeah, but now like I'm going out to a baseball game with my family and I'm going to enjoy it.
Mhm.
Right. But if I was going through that at the time, maybe I wouldn't let myself enjoy that because I don't feel like I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you were saying there? Or?
I felt like that if I was awake, I needed to be working and building and like just toiling. And
Yeah.
if I was sleeping, I better hurry up and wake up so I can get back to it. Like
Yeah.
it was really a struggle because also I grew up with that, Midwestern mindset of you aren't worth anything if you don't work harder than everyone else.
That part.
Right. And, that's how I thought I had my value to the world, was to work harder than everyone else. And how I thought I was going to not be broke too, which, by the way, how many hardworking people do you know that are so broke?
Yep.
That's not it. That's
Not the formula.
yeah.
Yeah.
Took a lot of
Yeah.
study and coaching and work on myself to figure that out though.
Yeah. And there is a beauty in going through and coming out the other side, to be able to like go back to that moment and like, man, I was there. Thank God I'm not there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have that perspective of, wow, like, and I get it though. And I think a lot of people listening, well, that's why I wanted to come back to it for a second, is I
Yeah.
think a lot of people listening will go, yeah, yeah. I'm really glad you said that though, because like, you don't have to live in that place of,
No, you can't live there. You're not showing up the best for your kids or your family or your
mhm.
friends or your business if you live there. You just
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah, that's incredible. So fast forward 8 years now after that, like, you're running the practice now. In more or less, is it more on the syndication side still, or what is the main focus of the practice?
Our main focus is helping real estate investors scale by leveraging other people's money legally. So what we do is the compliance. When someone's going to raise money for passive investors, we help them do that legally because everyone's so afraid of it, as they should be,
Sure.
because there's a lot of rules around it. And so it's all real estate investors and helping them raise money. That's it. And so we are really super good at it. We've got it really dialed in. And I find that helps us stand apart from even some of the large firms that do syndications. That I worked at a firm years ago where we wouldn't even look at a PPM, which is a private placement memorandum for anybody who's listening, which is just a disclosure document that you need to use if you're going to raise money. We wouldn't touch those for less than $25,000, just because of the risk and the pain in the ass of it and whatever. And we've got this dialed in so much because most mom and pop real estate investors, they don't have $25,000 to put towards legal.
Right.
That's what a big tech firm with venture can pay.
Yeah. So kind of gearing back a little bit, let's do some basic definitions to catch people up a little bit.
Yeah.
On the syndication side of things, and you were talking raising capital from other private investors into a fund, it's not the same as, hey, Bethany, the private investor, I'm going to go flip one house. Will you lend me the money to flip this, that, we're paraphrasing, making it oversimplified. When, as the investor, do I need to really consult with with your firm, and where does that begin? Like in kind of, what are the basic, where do you begin at with that? Because some people are going like, well, I've bought multifam, I've bought and I use investors to help me with this. When do they really need to start having some legal concern of you need to start talking to me now if you're thinking about doing X, kind of parameters?
So where I get involved is when you're selling securities. Okay, so what is a security? And a lot of people are going to get nervous when they first hear me say it. Don't panic, because if you accidentally sold securities, you're probably not going to jail. So we can go into that, probably.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
So a
Bro.
security, when you're taking money from passive investors, so it's a common enterprise. A syndication is really just you're pulling resources to go
Yep.
buy something that any one of you might not have been able to buy on your own, right? So you're going to bring in passive investors where they're putting in their money, they expect a return, and they expect that return to be generated from your efforts, right? So a common enterprise, money, passive, they expect a return based on your activities, right? Then
Yep.
you've sold a security if that's the case. And it doesn't matter if it's a low dollar amount, it doesn't matter if it's just one person, it could still be a security. The part where people panic is the very first word in the definition of security is note. People are like, oh, I'll do a promissory note, no big deal, it's not a security. It's actually the default is that a note is a security, but it's what's called in law a rebuttable presumption, which means if you have enough good facts to show that it's actually not a security, you could be okay. So that's why I said don't panic right away.
Right.
Those for flipping, it's usually a short-term note, less than 9 months. It's not a security. If it's secured by the real estate in first position, it's not a security. So, most of your flippers are not selling securities. So I say that up front, so they're not, because most people, they start to panic and then they don't listen to what I say after that.
Right.
So if you're selling securities, though, that's when we get involved. Now, if you're not raising a lot of money, then there are some things we can do to help you not accidentally sell securities. So what I always tell people is my job is to help people practice safe sec. The SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission. They care about security. So I help you practice safe sec, but you should only engage in sec if you are ready and with people that you trust. So if you're not ready, then I can help you effectively abstain. So if you're not ready, I could teach you how to turn it into a joint venture or something that's not going to get you over into the world of securities. And people tend to feel comforted by that fact of, okay, I'm not going to accidentally trip over it and fall into securities.
Right.
We won't let you do that.
Practice safe sec, guys. That's what she's saying.
Always use
I
protection.
love that. No, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah, and that's a great explanation because I know like a lot of the people that are, I mean, I talk to people all the time and they're like, and we're going to do this, we're going to start raising capital, we're going to do this. And I'm like, there are ways to do it and you better know how to do it properly,
That's right.
because there are some, and I'm sure you've seen it, some ignorance is not always bliss, right? Like you
No,
can't.
SEC does not accept that as an excuse. Oh, my
Yeah, and I know that like a lot of folks that were, it's like I had the intent was good.
Mhm.
It was pure even. Like
Yeah.
it was, and then something happened, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and to be clear, if the intent was good and you're not actively trying to screw people over, you're probably not going to go to jail, but there still could be penalties. You could still
yep,
owe that money back where you thought it was an investment. Now it became sort of a loan because you've got to pay it back. There could be fines. You could be forbidden from raising money ever again. There's still some pretty serious things. Um,
right,
bad press, all the things, right? So,
right.
I mean, it doesn't have to be jail to be bad, right?
I mean, I guess that's kind of a good segue into this. A question we kind of touched, pre-show, we getting to know each other a little bit more. Um, so a lot of people that are like, have syndications and they're giving people like this guarantee, let's say, and let's say just for example they started raising this capital in 2022. Okay, rates are still low,
Yeah.
market still looks good, and they're raising, and let's be honest, most of these people are raising capital. It's not, I mean, I shouldn't put everybody in one box, in one bucket, but the apartment people, they got those guys and gals that are raising for like, hey, I'm raising for 500 units of the, and you're talking, you got 12 million, 16 million, things like this, and they're going to give, hey, you're going to get this return in this amount of time, and that's the sale to the passive investor.
Yeah.
And now you fast forward, and rates are not at 4; they're for that product maybe 8, 9, and now insurance isn't what it used to be. Now it's this. Now taxes aren't this. Now it's this. And that's that perfect storm where they all come together.
Yep.
And ask me how I learned this lesson. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this
Well,
is a real story. You know, and then, wow, now you have to call your investors. You remember that money you lended on this? What, like, what are you guys, like, how do you best tell people, like, because I mean, again, they raised it properly. They did their due diligence ahead of time. They didn't do things out of malice or ill intent, but then the market shifts.
yeah.
What are you guys seeing with that today? Like, and kind of a little bit of, like, tell me a little more what your thoughts are in that space.
Yeah, I mean, the number of calls that I got a few months ago on how do I do a capital call? What do I do? Because, we didn't really have to deal with that in 21 and early 22. It was like everyone's
Hmm.
raining money and you triple our property and it was going to get
Yeah.
returns. And, like we talked about before the show, everyone's a genius in 21, right?
Yeah.
And what we found was people calling and asking, okay, how do I do a capital call? And this is actually why I changed the structure of my firm, which we can talk about in a bit. The biggest thing, other things being equal, meaning you did all the right things. You did all the disclosures you were supposed to do. You had a good attorney, a good CPA. You've done the things you were supposed to do. So this is just the market shift. Okay, so let's assume all the things are true.
Yeah.
Communication is the most important thing you have on your side because it's surprised people who sue. Investors, if they're sophisticated enough or accredited to have gotten into your deal, right? If they have any business being a passive investor in your deal, then they understand that there was risk, right? They understand how this works. Hopefully this wasn't their first investment. Hopefully it wasn't the last of their money. It sucks to lose money, but that is why you have to have investors that are at least sophisticated, if not higher level of understanding
Right.
that. So if you're communicating with them and you're letting them know, here's what's going on, here's how we're trying to pivot, here's how we're negotiating with the lender, here's how we're, whatever, here's what we're doing to try to handle all the things flying at us in this crazy market. If you don't bury your head in the sand and you stay in front of it, most investors are going to understand this is how it goes sometimes. I knew this going in, and you told me going in, even if I didn't know before, because you gave me a PPM. They told me all
Right.
the risks. And I'm a responsible investor, so I read it, right? All 100 pages of it, right?
I'm sure they did.
Right, yeah. So, but communication, because that's going to protect
Yeah.
you and them. It's going to protect you because people can't say, well, I didn't know. Well, I told you in the PPM. I told you in every quarterly update. I've been telling you ahead of time every time something happens. This is what I've done. I'm sorry, there was nothing else I could do, right?
Hmm.
And it still sucks, right? It still sucks. Like no one's happy about
Right.
losing money. And there are some people that maybe just don't have the emotional intelligence to not lash out and be mad at you. People are going to be mad at you. They are.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you're liable though. And that is kind of goes back to the earlier conversation we had of you're going to have to get used to the fact that sometimes people are going to be mad at you and you just can't live there.
Right.
So, that's not even really legal. Well, it is legal advice though, because it does create liability if you bury your head in the sand and you don't talk to your investors and tell them what's going on. You've
Hmm.
got an ongoing duty to them as the deal progresses to let them know what's happening. And you also have a duty to try to preserve their capital, right?
Right.
But you don't have a duty, and this is important, you don't have a duty to sacrifice yourself or your own capital to preserve their capital,
Hmm.
right? You hear people say all the time, like, I want to see, you don't have to suffer. Now, you shouldn't be taking distributions if you're not giving distributions, of course. That's
Correct. Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
illegal.
That's
But you don't have to like take out a second on your home to give them their money back. They invested. They're all big boys and girls. So my point is you don't need to get on the struggle bus just to preserve
right.
this, because you feel bad about it,
Right.
and frankly, I actually think that's a red flag because then it's like, well, did you do something wrong? Why are you doing that?
Ah.
You know? And I think that's important because people, during COVID, when everything just shut down, the number of calls I got from experienced syndicators, like, do I have to give them their money back now?
Yeah.
No, it's an investment. No one could have predicted COVID.
Right.
I mean, I guess there are people that might argue you could have. That's a different show. But, you know, we didn't predict COVID,
We
right?
could put our tin hats on. I'm kidding. No. Okay. I'm kidding.
I'm
Okay.
not gonna get canceled today. So no, and we couldn't have predicted COVID. And
Yeah.
so no, of course you're not responsible for giving that money back. And then I say it like that as though, of course, you should have known. That's why I have a job, right? I'm here because not everybody knows all the things.
Right.
And so we guide people from going down this whole scared path of like, I don't have to figure out a way to give everybody their money back because of a global pandemic. you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just approaching things from very factual, logical, non-emotional place, which is hard when people have a lot of money on the line.
Truly. Yeah. I mean, money's a very emotional thing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's no, two ways to say it. Like it is
it is.
hyper emotional. Like it is, and
Yeah,
it's, you think there are people, I mean, people lose friendships, family, everything over
yeah,
money, and that's a difficult thing. But, having somebody in your corner like you and what you guys do to make sure that, you're following best practices and doing the right things up front before if it becomes a problem, there's some security in knowing, uh, sorry, security
yeah.
and knowing, um, that okay, you know what? I didn't do this the wrong way. I didn't do this. I've done everything right. It didn't go well. Now what? And then you still have somebody on the now what side to say, hey, now what, Bethany? And they can guide them in that too. That's a really beautiful and powerful thing that you've got. I love that. You mentioned kind of a little bit so talking that you've kind of done some transition inside of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So we used to try, we would charge clients just on a flat fee basis. And I because I don't like to keep track of my hours. Nobody likes to pay hourly attorneys. Nobody does. It's not efficient. It rewards inefficiency. It rewards just, gabbing, and
Hmm.
nobody likes it. We don't like to keep track of our time. You don't like to pay to call me. So we did a flat fee for a long time, but what it was is very, very transactional, right? You call
Right.
me when you're
Yeah.
under contract, or you call me when you have an LOI signed. We do all your disclosures. Once you start raising money, we're out, right? So then you
Right.
call me and you're like, okay, but how do I do a capital call? Okay, my investors have questions. Okay. So we decided just recently that now we have a subscription-based model where you can get your questions answered without being nickel and dime. You know exactly what you're paying every single month. And
Yeah.
we built the community, the Conscious Capital Collective, to be sort of a repository for all the downloadable materials we were sending out to people anyway, right? There's a live Q&A with an attorney in there every single week. There's another coaching call just for PLG clients, Premier Law Group clients, in there every single week. So there's multiple opportunities in a group setting to get more questions answered where you don't have to pay any extra
Wow.
to do that. And the reason for that, one, is I don't want to keep track of my time. Two, I don't want to work for free. But three, it helps us and serves us all in this community if we're all educated, right? A rising
Mm.
tide and everything, raises all ships. So, you see all these articles come out, the Wall Street Journal articles bashing Main Street investment syndication. It's a bunch of scammers and, whatever. And you've got BlackRock buying up all the real estate. I want to help protect the mom and pop Main Street investors be able to keep doing this. And that means that we need to keep people educated and keep people doing things on the up and up so that we can
Right.
keep doing this. And so I provide that education in between deals, before deals, after deals, so that people can confidently continue their business without having to worry they're going to step in it, or worried about calling me and getting charged, $1,000 for a phone call.
Yeah. And that's the Conscious Capital Collective. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
we
really
also
cool.
have the subscription model with the law firm that includes that community. So our clients still get to call us. It's not like, oh, go to the group call and never talk to me again, right? So our
Right.
clients can still call us, but we just want to provide as many resources as
Well, and
possible.
it keeps them the ability to, and most people, I don't know about like, I guess yeah, that's why you created this.
Yeah.
Most of my calls to attorneys, it's not, if I could, rather, let me rephrase this. If I could, most of my calls to my attorneys would be just, hey, quick question.
Yeah. And almost all my calls start with that. Hey, quick question. Right. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, right?
Well, right. But
But I,
typically it's not like, hey, can I book 2 hours because I need 2 hours of your time?
right.
Most of us are like, we're moving and we're doing so. Like, can I
Yeah.
ask you this thing that's
Well,
plaguing my
if
mind?
it's hourly, it would make sense for me to stretch that out into 2 hours. But what I find is there's a finite number of ways to structure these, because we only do real estate, right? Now we do some
Right.
stuff that's tangential to real estate, but it's real estate. It's like laundromats or whatever. But there's only a finite number of ways, and I've now seen them all, right?
Hmm.
So I've probably already answered your question 3 times today.
Right.
So why don't we get on a group call and you can maybe hear what other people are asking that you don't even have to ask now, or maybe you
Beautiful.
didn't know you needed to ask. Right. And so we created the group calls so that, one, we could be more efficient with our time, but two, again, and you're just starting out, you don't even know what you don't know yet.
That part. Yeah. That's really cool. Wow. also pre-show, we talked about something really cool, and I'm excited. I'm thrilled for you, by the way. You wrote a book.
I did write a book, yes.
Yeah, tell me more. I want to know all the details.
So the book is called The Power of OPE, Other People's Everything. It's creating exponential growth by leveraging other people's everything. And so we do my whole thing.
Hold on, I'm going to pause you. I'm so sorry. I thought it was cool pre-show, and I think it's cool now. Because in real estate, you hear OPM, 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 OPM. You hear it all the time, and then you say leveraging OPE and other people's everything. That is super cool. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's exactly where it came from, though. Is my whole firm is built on people leveraging OPM, other people's money, and that is, in my opinion, the best way to grow your wealth and to create wealth is to leverage other people's money. But there's a lot more to it than just that. And so I was starting to learn, like, well, you can't just take other people's money. You need more than that, and especially to be safe, but also to stay sane. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what I started writing these stories, and I started thinking of what are some other words that we use, right? And I was like, other people's time, other people's experience. And I just started writing stories around them, and it became like, I love to write. So that's a thing that I do for fun. And so it was just stories around all the different ways you can leverage other people. But it really also boils down to something we talked about earlier, which is not toiling for the sake of toiling. And what I mean by that is we fall into this entrepreneurial trap of we feel like we have to do everything ourselves. It's like, move, I'll do it. I can do it. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so I think the most important thing is to figure out what is your lane. And that means what is that you're amazing at, but also that lights you up. Because sometimes we have to get good at stuff we don't love, right? So what are those things that you're amazing at and light you up? And then the goal in life, I think for most of us, if we boil it down, is to spend as much time doing just that as possible and as little time doing anything else as possible. And so the concept then was born of leveraging other people's everything so you can stay in your lane as much as possible, because that is where you're doing the world the most good. And that is where you're the happiest. And that is where you're living your extraordinary life. And that's the best way to grow. But also, the lawyer in me can't help but say, it's also where you're safest. You shouldn't be doing things you suck at. You shouldn't. It's going to create liability. And you shouldn't do things that you hate, because you're not going to do it to the best of your ability because you hate it.
Right.
So I'm here giving you legal advice to do stuff that you love and that lights you up and that you're good at, to stay legally safe as well. And so it just ended up becoming a whole entire book. And I finally published it a few weeks ago, and we came out on the Amazon bestseller list, and now we're making a push for the New York Times bestseller list. So everybody, please go buy it.
Absolutely. That's incredible. I mean, yeah, so let's make sure that we get that. That's on Amazon. And the name of the book, what's the name of the book?
The Power of OPE.
The Power of OPE. And we're going to make sure we put that in the show notes for everybody, okay? Power of OPE. Guys, I mean, if you're in that space in any form or fashion, like reading is the best thing we can ever do. There's so much knowledge out there, and to be able to get direct access to, like, hey, in 2025, I'm a real practicing attorney that does this thing, like, and you can have a book at your fingertips. My gosh, that's incredibly powerful. So guys, check it out, pull it up.
Thank you.
But yeah, Bethany, kind of a good segue for us. If people wanted to reach out to you though, get to know you, like, what's the best way to do that? How would that look?
Even though I feel like I'm too old to say this, actually it's Instagram.
Yeah.
Bethany_LaFlam, because there's a link to everything that I'm doing on Instagram. So that's the easiest way to find everything that I'm doing and keep up.
That's incredible. Yeah. Seriously, Bethany is worth following. Go to the gram, check her out, go for it, guys. Like, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer to do.
Thank you.
But Bethany, this has been a phenomenal show. I've enjoyed every moment of
Me too.
talking to you. You're a joy to talk to. It's so much fun. And guys, check her out. Show notes, everything will be there. And until the next time, we will see you on the next show, everybody. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.